Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a bonus edition of Jordan and Drew, the sports crew. That's right. We're here on Thursday morning dropping this one. Jordon Lawrenz here with the one and only Drew Skyberg. Drew, I can't wait for you to tell everyone how awful your predictions were for this tournament. How does it feel to be wrong?
It feels great, of course, because like we mentioned in our previous episode, everything I said didn't happen. And we're going to get into that. It's going to be a great episode. I can't wait to share how wrong I was about everything that happened this March and April.
Yes, for sure, for sure. And I'll give it. I was wrong too. I said Gonzaga was going to win it all. I thought they were a lock, but then, boy, oh boy, did they prove that they don't do well against good teams. That's what happens when you play in a bad conference. But we'll get to it. So basically, what we're going to do here for this bonus episode for you all, if you didn't listen to our breakdown, we filled out a bracket. Drew and I filled out a bracket on that episode with every single game, and it was Gonzaga, Illinois in the finals. We'll talk about all that as we make our way through. But for this episode here, we're just going to recap the games, what happened, our thoughts on some of them. We'll go in depth on others, and some, like this first one, we're just going to move by with ease. So let's start right at the top. We'll focus on one section at a time, like we did in our breakdown. So starting off at the top, Gonzaga beat Norfolk State 98-55. Obviously, we don't have anything to say about a 1 seed demolishing a 16 seed, so we're moving on from there. Oklahoma beat Missouri 72-68. Those are 9-8 seeds, always really close games. And here, one Drew, we thought for sure Creighton was going to be a lock to lose, but they didn't. What am I saying? They didn't lose. They ended up winning that game. I don't know what just happened right there. Creighton won 63-62. We thought for sure UCSB. We thought Santa Barbara was going to be the team, and they weren't. They were not the Cinderella team. Creighton moves on, and boy, we were wrong about this.
Yeah, we were. We chose some 12 seeds beating fives. That really didn't happen. We'll get into the Georgetown game where I was like, hey, that's a lock, easiest money ever. And yeah, that did not happen.
Yeah, only one 12 seed beat the 5 seed this year in the tournament. So we went hard on some of these 12 fives and it didn't end up paying off, but we knew Virginia was not going to be a good team and they weren't. They lost to Ohio 62-58. So we had our big first double digit seed moving on in this game. And then we had USC beat Drake 72-56. We knew USC was going to be dangerous and boy, were they ever. Kansas survived their first game. They beat Eastern Washington 93-84. Oregon beat VSU in that one. There's some controversy there. That game never got played. VCU had COVID issues. Oregon advanced by default. Not a fan of that, but hey, whatever. That's just how it was. And then Iowa beat Grand Canyon 86-74. Little did we know that was going to be the last time Luka Garza played this tournament because he lost. Oregon beat Iowa 95-80. Drew, I was shocked to see this. Oregon didn't even play a single game, and here they come beating Iowa by 15.
Yeah, a lot of people mentioned because Oregon had that full day of rest and they came ready to play and they just shocked Iowa. And I was impressed. And I know a lot of us were like, hey, we had Iowa going far. I know a few
Elite Eight or Sweet 16, I mean.
Yeah, a few of my friends had them winning and they saw that game and they were just like, oh, home, here we go again. March sadness.
Yeah, we actually did have them in the Elite Eight. I was wrong. I had them in the Sweet 16 of one of my others. We had Gonzaga and Iowa, but that didn't end up happening. And then we knew Kansas was a slouchy team. I'm a Kansas fan, like I said, time and time again, and they just weren't good this year. They had problems and they lost to USC 85-51. USC demolished Kansas. Wasn't even close. Creighton then ended up beating Ohio 72-58. So, Drew, here we are wrong again. Creighton wins 2 games, and this will come up later with Villanova. Gonzaga beat Oklahoma 87-71. So, Gonzaga handled Creighton with ease 83-65. USC beat Oregon 82-68. Gonzaga USC. Who would have expected that to happen in the Elite Eight? Certainly not us.
I predicted that actually in one of my other brackets somehow.
Did you really?
I am terrible in any other region, as we'll talk about.
You had USC over Kansas and Iowa?
Yep, that was one of my actually good brackets. And the other 3 regions, though, like I said, not good at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll certainly talk about some of mine too. I always feel like anytime March Madness, I start off hot and then it just goes downhill from there. But Gonzaga beat USC 85-66. So Gonzaga, the first team in the Final Four. Then let's go down to Michigan's side. Michigan beat Texas Southern 82-66. LSU beat St. Bonaventure 76-61. We were high on LSU thinking they were going to beat Michigan, but we'll get to that. They didn't. Michigan was a lot more impressive than we thought. And here's our Georgetown team, 13-12 on the year. They won 4 straight. We're coming in hot, and Colorado demolished them at 96-73. This one we were big wrong on. Georgetown was terrible in this game.
Yeah, and it's sad because we were rooting for those Big East teams, but when they met Colorado, not even close. They almost put up 100, like you said, and that was kind of sad because I think I had Georgetown going Sweet 16. I was like riding that. I'm like, hey, let's go Hoyas, and no.
Yeah, and that was one of those teams like UC Santa Barbara too. You just bet on the wrong upset, but if you bet on UCLA, boy, you were in the big money. Florida State beat UNC Greensboro 64-54. UCLA beat Michigan State. That game went overtime, right? The first 4?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. And then they beat BYU here in the tournament 73-62. And here was probably, in my opinion, our first big upset. Abilene Christian over Texas 53-52. Abilene Christian came out of nowhere to get this win. And I had Texas in the final 4 of one of my brackets, Drew. How about you?
I didn't have Texas. I think I had them Sweet 16 maybe, but I'm not complaining about that loss because that brought Shaka Smart to Marquette.
Very, very true. We had Texas in the final 4 of our bracket. So we had Gonzaga, Texas. So we were big wrong there as Abilene Christian shocked them. And then Maryland beat UConn 63-54. Alabama over Iona 68-55. Alabama didn't do as well as some people thought they were going to. We'll get into that. LSU couldn't beat Michigan. It was 86-78 Michigan win. Colorado lost to Florida State 71-53. UCLA demolished Abilene Christian, beat them by 20. And then Maryland loses 96-77 to Alabama. Michigan beats Florida State 76-58. UCLA over Alabama 88-78. Drew, I think at this point, people were starting to realize, oh boy, UCLA is dangerous.
Yeah, and I had Alabama going really far. Like, they were an excellent team this year. I was even shocked because that game went to overtime, I believe, as well. And did it? Yeah.
Yes, that did. That was a crazy game.
That was a crazy game. I watched it, and I just was really impressed with UCLA at that point. And I mentioned this before. I watched them play Marquette in January, and they looked like a really good team. I thought they could make a run. I had them going in the Sweet 16 in my other bracket. I didn't think anything farther than that. Or was it Sweet 16? I had them winning the first 4 and then a game or two.
So 32 maybe, but
yeah, I had them losing then. But
yeah, I don't think many people had UCLA going far, but they ended up beating Michigan 51-49, 2-point win. I also thought Michigan was a lock to lose pretty early. They made it to the Elite 8, so Michigan held their ground. Maybe that motivation really got them going, and they ended up going to the Elite 8. But it's UCLA and Gonzaga in the Final 4. We'll talk about all the Final 4 together because, boy, was that a game, UCLA and Gonzaga. Top right here of a bracket in the South, Baylor beat Hartford 79-55. Wisconsin beat North Carolina. Drew, we were wrong. We said UNC was the 9 seed. They were the 8. Wisconsin was the 9. We said that in our Monday episode, so we take back our word there. Yeah, Wisconsin killed North Carolina, though, 85-62. That was Roy Williams' last game at UNC, and it came at the hands of Wisconsin with Villanova. We thought they were going to lose. We thought Winthrop was a good team. I mean, they were coming in the year 23-1. Villanova was a down team, but Villanova won by 10 points. We did not expect Villanova to go far in this tournament at all.
No, we were really low on the Big East teams, and rightfully so. The Big East Conference was very weak this year compared to past years, and we were high on the Big Ten teams because that conference, hey, look at that conference. They were incredible this year, and they just beat each other up as we saw in the tournament because when they played other teams in other conferences, it just didn't go well. It really didn't.
No, not at all. And like you said, Big Ten dominated all year, but there wasn't a single Big Ten team in the Final 4. And looking at the Elite 8, they're like, Michigan. That was it. Michigan was the only Big Ten team in the Elite 8. So that is crazy that we were so high on the Big Ten all year long, but they just failed in the tournament. And here's one right here. North Texas stuns Purdue, the 13 seed over the 4. It was a 78-69 win. There was a total of 9 double-digit seeds who won in the first round. That's a crazy amount. Nine double-digit teams getting a win. Texas Tech beat Utah State 65-53. Arkansas beat Colgate 85-68. Florida beat Virginia Tech 75-70. And here's the big one. Oral Roberts defeats Ohio State 75-72. This was just a slaughtering as Oral Roberts got the job done. They had two insane players. Amos had 29 and Obanor had 30 points. Oral Roberts, Drew, no one saw this coming.
No, and that was the biggest shock I think this tournament. And we'll get into our biggest upset award, and you can imagine who's going to win that. But that was quite the game. I remember seeing that score, and I was like, "Is this real?" Is like a 15 beating a two. I mean, I know that of course UMBC had that big win over Virginia that one year, but a 15 over a two is still awfully impressive.
Yeah, the last time that happened, 2016, when Middle Tennessee beat Michigan State. I remember watching that game in my basement when it happened, going crazy. But for this Oral Roberts game, that's when I was in vacation. I was at Florida. I was eating at the time, and I saw the notification, and I was like, whoa, because I had Ohio State in the championship at one of my brackets. And just like that, they were gone. So back to the top, Wisconsin lost to Baylor 76-63. I have a very interesting statistic on this Wisconsin team. It was a tweet I saw from Ryan Wing. He has some good work for sports for Fox 11. Wisconsin has lost to the eventual national champion team 5 times. In 2000, they lost to Michigan State. 2002, lost to Maryland. 2005, lost to UNC. 2015, lost to Duke. And now 2021, lost to Baylor. So 5 different times
Wow.
Wisconsin lost to a team that eventually won it all. Hey, if you're going to lose to anyone, might as well be that. Villanova then beat North Texas 84-61. Close game here is Arkansas beats Texas Tech. We were high on Texas Tech. We had them over Arkansas. That didn't happen. Close loss there. Oral Roberts then beats Florida. That's right. Oral Roberts won not one, but 2 games, 81-78. They eventually lost to Arkansas by 2. Arkansas went farther than some people imagined. So they ended up going to the Elite Eight. Baylor beat Villanova 62-51. And then Baylor punches their ticket to the Final Four, beating Arkansas 81-72. Drew, I think a lot of people expected Baylor in that Final Four, and there they were, first one seed in program history, and they made the most of it.
Yeah, I thought Baylor, I had them in the Elite Eight. I think in all my brackets, I think I had Ohio State in the Final Four, which that's kind of tough.
Mm-hmm.
Our team was awfully good. They had some rough patches throughout the year, but they've always been a tough team defensively. I mean, Jared Butler's just so active defensively. We saw that in the championship game. We saw him score, and I think that was a really overall balanced team, and I think that's what it takes to win, as we saw them just manhandle Gonzaga.
Yeah, they really did. We'll get to that game eventually coming up on it. But otherwise, I had Baylor over Gonzaga in one of my brackets. And that was it was a throwaway bracket on ESPN. I was in some group for UWGB. I had 1,310 points, I think. I was like 20 points away from winning $25. So that's like one game I got wrong, but I finished 4th there. Whatever. Final side, the Midwest. Illinois beat Drexel 78-49. Loyola Chicago beat Georgia Tech 71-60. And I can't wait to hear you say something coming up here. Oregon State beat Tennessee. That was our 12-5 upset. Oregon State beating the Volunteers 70-56. Oklahoma State over Liberty 69-60. San Diego State, we were high on this team, or at least I was. I thought they were going to go far. And whoa, here comes Syracuse out of nowhere, making a run in this tournament. They win 78-62. Wasn't even close in that first game. West Virginia over Morehead State 84-67. Clemson loses to Rutgers 60-56. And then Houston over Cleveland State 87-56. Pretty straightforward bracket on that side, besides the 12-5 and the San Diego State upset. And then here, Drew, I just want to hear you say 3 words as Loyola Chicago beats Illinois 71-58.
I was wrong.
There it is. I thought there was a good chance this could have happened. You thought Illinois was going to go far.
Not a chance. And Illinois winning it all, our championship game in like 3 brackets. I was like, book it, Illinois championship. They won the Big Ten championship. They played excellent basketball like the weeks upcoming to the tournament. And I was like, no way this team loses. And then Loyal just stuns them.
Huge upset. Can't bet against Sister Jean. And That's what happens there. And also just some tips for next year. If you're going to make a few brackets, make them different. That's what I do with mine. I had Illinois winning one, Gonzaga winning one, Baylor winning one. You got to change them up.
I changed it up a little bit. I had like every bracket I did, I had someone different winning. It's just I was that high in Illinois. I was like I just couldn't have them in the championship or like in the final four. I was just too high in them.
Understandable, but there it comes back to cost you. Oregon State then beat Oklahoma State. So here again, you thought Oklahoma State was going to go far. They lost to Oregon State, the 12 seed out of nowhere. What happened to
Yeah.
Cade Cunningham?
Yeah, that was kind of a tough game for Oklahoma State. I might have been actually I had Oklahoma State beating Illinois at one point, but I had both those teams very high. I was very high on both of them, like you said, and they both lose in the second round. And that's kind of my March Madness skills. It's more of March sadness for me, of course. So I just sit back and enjoy the games after the first two rounds.
Cade Cunningham played all 40 minutes and had 24 points in that game, and he had 5 steals as well. He was 4 of 11 from 3-point line, 6 of 20 overall. So not too
Ugh.
good there, but still 24 points. I mean, nothing wrong with that. Syracuse then beat West Virginia. This Midwest side was insane as Syracuse wins 75-72, and then Houston over Rutgers 63-60. Rutgers almost beat Houston, and absolutely no one would have saw that coming. Loyola Chicago's run then ended thanks to Oregon State. That's right, 12 seed Oregon State in the Elite Eight. Unreal. They won 65-58. Then Houston beat Syracuse 62-46, and it's Houston in the Final Four 67-61. A lot of people underappreciated Houston's a 2 seed, but boy, oh boy, did Baylor humble them in the Final Four. That game was not even close.
No, it was not. We were talking about it on Monday's episode, and it was an absolute blowout. We didn't have to say anything. I mean, they were up 25 at one point, and it was just a game. Like, it was over at halftime.
Yeah, there was nothing left. I think it was 20 at halftime or something like that. It might have even been 25, but it was not close, that's for sure. And then there was the game. We talked about it on Monday's episode. Gonzaga over UCLA 93-90. Game of the year, game of the tournament, one of the best games in a long, long time. It was close the entire way. Gonzaga's biggest lead was 7, and then they just the charge by Timmy to go into overtime, and then the Suggs 3-point shot.
Oh,
It's you can't write it any better than this, Drew. Gonzaga into the final or into the championship game, but then Baylor destroyed Gonzaga. They led 11-1 at the start and never looked back. This is a fun one. It was the first wire-to-wire championship win since 2014. So you're going back 7 years since a team led the entire way and won in the championship. Gonzaga loses 86-70. What did you think when you were watching this game? I was sad for the Bulldogs.
yeah, I turned the game on a little late. I was watching some Brewer baseball, and I came and I was like, oh my goodness, they're down 15. I was impressed on how a team that was so dominant throughout the year just was like, and we were talking about their competition, but like they were down 15, like they were down double digits majority of the game. It was just like Baylor was just on cruise control and they went up 10 right away to start the game, and that was kind of it. That's all she wrote.
Yeah, it really was. I mentioned it on Monday's episode. Gonzaga averaged 89.2 points per game coming into the championship. They only put up 70 points in that game. Large part of it thanks to the defense from Baylor, and Baylor shot 43.5% from behind the arc. You're not going to stop a team when they're making threes like that. When it comes to rebounding, Baylor out-rebounded Gonzaga 2-1. That's right. 34 rebounds for Baylor,
Wow.
17 for Gonzaga. And listen to this. Gonzaga had 1 offensive rebound all game long. You need second chance opportunities, and you can't turn the ball over. Gonzaga did 14 times, and a lot of those came down the stretch. I mean, you watched the end of it, right? You saw
I was
Gonzaga
watching you.
didn't. Gonzaga did not look comfortable. They weren't playing their game. They were just throwing up threes. They were forcing things, going way too fast. It was not the Gonzaga team we're used to seeing, and I think this comes in part. They're not used to facing teams like this. They faced a Kansas first game of the year, but we know it's not a normal Kansas team, and that was way early on. Pretty sure they beat Iowa, right? Didn't they,
Yeah,
Gonzaga?
they did.
I'm pretty sure they beat Iowa, so that's a good win there. But otherwise, it's been a while since they played a team, and Baylor humbled them. Gonzaga's first double-digit loss since November 29th of 2019, and that's the first national championship for Baylor Scott Drew gets the job done. I was sad for the Bulldogs at the end of the game. When you just see him going over there crying, hugs all around, it's nothing good. But then 5 minutes later, when Baylor was celebrating, I was happy for him. First national championship in program history. They've got a really good girls team, but finally the guys come around, get the job done. Final thoughts on this game because I don't think anyone saw this coming.
Yeah, I was really hoping. I mean, I kind of hoped Gonzaga was gonna win, but it didn't really matter to me, to be honest. But I was just really like, as I was rooting for Corey Kispert because he had a rough turn. Like we talked about, he had a good couple first two games, and then just really it wasn't the same Corey Kispert we saw in the regular season. The last three games, it really wasn't. Uh, Nothing was falling for him offensively. He had a little issue with the shoulder, I know, during the game, as we saw, but like it just wasn't the same Corey Kispert we saw at the start of the year. Which, yeah, he stepped up, and like Timmy obviously stepped up, Suggs stepped up, and it wasn't Kispert, who was kind of that leader for the team, really wasn't there anymore, and it was kind of hard to watch because watching a guy so dominant during the regular season just shrink in a moment like this, it was just kind of hard to watch because like I said, I kind of wanted Gonzaga to win. It really didn't matter to me, but I guess Baylor won. Congratulations, first championship. Go Bulldogs.
Would have been, yeah, it would have been the first undefeated team since 1976 when Indiana did it. And he's a senior, right? So he's going to be gone now for Gonzaga. That's a tough way to go out, but they've got all these guys coming back. I mean, Timmy
Well,
and Suggs especially, along
they
with
might come
Ayayi.
back. I bet they're
Yeah,
going to go to the NBA.
yeah, potentially, but you never know. Just year eligibility wise for years, they could come back, is what I should say, because you never know with these college kids anymore. And yeah, that was the last time there was a 1 versus 1 seed in the final since 2017. Gonzaga lost that too to North Carolina. So Gonzaga just fails to win the big game. It's tough to see, especially, but Baylor gets the job done. And now we've got some awards to give out. Drew, I want you to give out this award, our very first one for the player of the tournament. No doubt about it. We got this figured out very easily. Who won our player of the tournament?
Our player of the tournament would be, of course, Jared Butler.
Absolutely. No hesitation in saying
Oh,
that.
of
Butler
course.
just dominated. I think he averaged about 15 points per game, but it's not even just that. Some of his defensive skills on the floor, and he just brings the whole Baylor team together. He did really great things throughout the entirety of the tournament. And in the end, he was one of the main reasons why Baylor got the win in that game. Anything else to say about Butler before we move on?
No, you hit it all. He was outstanding the whole tournament. He was making threes when he needed to. He was playing great defense the whole tournament, and yeah, he's just a complete player. And that he led them to the championship.
He really did. And our next award is going to be given out for the best game of the tournament, and it's got to be UCLA Gonzaga. We talked about it before, but I thought UCLA and Alabama was a fun game, but then that Gonzaga game just outdid it. I mean, you're not going to find games like this that often where they're close the entirety of the game. Then they have a crazy sequence which sends it to overtime, and then a three-pointer from the logo to send the banked it in to win the game and send Gonzaga to the championship. There's nothing else to say about this game.
You can't make that stuff up. That's March Madness for you. That was the craziest game I've ever seen in a long time, and I'm so happy that we could witness that game. And as a sports fan, that was just incredible to watch.
It was perfection. There's no other way to put it. One of the best things. And unless you're Skip Bayless, who tweeted out, no idea how you can call that an all-time great college basketball game when it was won by a lucky shot. But that's Skip Bayless. He's just going to tweet whatever he wants for attention. It's unbelievable. But our next thing was the best sleeper team, and Drew, give it away.
Of course, the UCLA Bruins, after that incredible run from first four to Final Four. It doesn't get better than that. And they were so close to a championship game. That would have been crazy.
They could have done it. As Brian Anderson said, from the first four to the Final Four, they did it. And yeah, like you said, one banked three-pointer at the last second, lucky shot away from getting there. And I would have loved to see double overtime because that certainly would have been good. UCLA and Alabama, that game, like they dominated in overtime when it got there. It was 88-78, the final. They dominated Alabama in overtime by 10 points. Then our final, well, we actually have another award to give away after, but the biggest upset of the award has to go to Oral Roberts over Ohio State. This was just like we said, no one saw it coming. Oral Roberts had two guys who dominated in every aspect of the game. They didn't just win once, they won twice. They won two different games. It wasn't just a lucky win. Oral Roberts drew. This is one of those teams that we're going to remember for a while with a performance like that.
Yeah, like the Loyola Final Four run we had a few years back. This is going to be just one of those iconic teams. UMBC beating the one seed. That's going to be a team we always remember. And yeah, Oral Roberts, they're now in history as the 15 that beat the two, and then they won again. So they were the 15 seed in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, and we lost March Madness last year. We didn't have a tournament, so we knew there was going to be some crazy stuff. We had Syracuse, UCLA. These teams go far, which we didn't expect. And then we had Oral Roberts beating Ohio State in the first round, giving us our first huge upset in a long time. I'm pretty sure they played before that Abilene Christian Texas game, but even if they didn't, who cares? That's a 15 seed beating a 2 seed. And Drew, we we came up with this award just a little bit ago. Most disappointing player. It's not really a good award to get, but it's one that's got to get given out.
Yeah, we might get some disagreement on this award, but we voted Corey Kispert as the biggest disappointment, which you could say, how could that be? Their team made the championship game. But of course, when it's undefeated Gonzaga, or formerly undefeated Gonzaga, making the championship game, and you were like the conference player of the year, he was going for like the Wooden Award and all, and he was supposed to, like, he was that leader coming in the tournament. And really, that was not the case at all throughout the tournament. It was really the Timmy and Suggs show, and that was seen throughout like all the games. We talked about that, and it just Corey Kispert was not the same player. You couldn't make a shot. He really, like, defensively, he had some issues. Rebounding, you talked about rebounding. That really wasn't a strength of Gonzaga, and he really didn't help that case out. And yeah, it was just an overall disappointment. All of his stats from the regular season kind of they just went down in the postseason, and that's kind of what we saw.
Yeah, he didn't make the all tournament team either. I'll talk about that to end the episode. But sure, you can do good in the first two games, but you're playing nobodies. You're playing a 16 seed and then an 8 or 9 seed. So what does it matter? You have to show up when it matters most. And he didn't for his team. Luckily, he had other guys to step up. But at the end of the day, that's just how we're going to end things here with our awards. I'm going to recap here the all tournament team that I did just mention. And the player of the year, or the best player, was Jared Butler. So they gave that away to him. Davion Mitchell made it, both those from Baylor. Jalen Suggs, Drew Timme made it. So 2 from Baylor, 2 from Gonzaga. And then UCLA's got one in there as well. Johnny Juzang in there to make up the 5. I think that's a very good group of 5. And Drew, you're not ready for this, but I made up an impromptu game of trivia. Are you ready for some trivia?
What?
Yes. Rapid fire, 5 true or false questions. I did this before we went on. And here we go. 5 questions. They're all true or false. We're going to see how you do. True or false? Georgetown lost by 23 points.
True.
That is true. True or false? The first game-winning buzzer beater took place in the Final Four.
False.
It is true. That was the first game winner.
Oh, really?
Yes. Unless I'm wrong, someone could back me up and I'd be wrong, but I'm almost positive that was there. True or false? UCLA won 4 games this tournament.
False.
Correct. They won 5 games.
Because the first tournament. 4.
Yeah, you can't forget about that first 4 game. It's tricky. True or false? This is really going to see if you're paying attention or not. There were 2 upsets where the 10 seed battled the 7 seed.
True.
It is true. That is a good one there. Yes. And our last one, it's a bit tricky. True or false? The closest game between the 1 and 16 seed was Michigan versus Texas Southern.
Okay, let's think this through. Yeah, I think my other one's in 16 games.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say false.
It was true.
Really?
There was just a 16-point differential there, and I'll recap them all here just to make sure we're not wrong. So Gonzaga beat Norfolk State 98-55. That's certainly more than 16. Baylor beat Hartford 79-55. That's 24. And then Illinois beat Drexel 78-49. And last time I checked, that's more than 16 as well.
Yep. So I'll take the 3 out of 5. Not bad.
3 out of 5. Yeah, not trivia. Bad. If you didn't listen to Monday's episode, you got to listen to that mascot, because Drew certainly needs to redeem himself after that. You're now, what, 19 of 30?
Overall? That was, let's not talk about Monday's episode. Couldn't do trivia, couldn't spell my name. Just a rough episode at the end. But hey, I'll take 5 out of 5. I'm working my way back up to that 5 out of 5 glory.
Yeah, you're gonna get there again. And coming up on Monday, college mascots level 3. It is gonna be tough, but we're gonna eventually get there. And don't forget, guys, Monday we'll be right back. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Leave that 5-star review. Really helps a lot. And we'll be back Monday, 8 a.m. our normal time. And coming up soon, the Summer Sports Spectacular. And we also have another very special bonus episode planned. It is March Madness Blizzard Edition. Us, as former Dairy Queen employees, I made a bracket of 32 Blizzards from Dairy Queen. And we're going to have a very, very special bonus edition where we go through that and we pick the ultimate Dairy Queen Blizzard. Drew, how excited are you for that?
I'm super excited. We might have some special guests on, no promises, but that's going to be great to discuss and debate our Blizzard tastes with other people and with you, Jordan.
Yeah, we're going to see what the people think as well. We'll eventually put up a poll to see what the people like the best. So that wraps things up. You can follow Drew at DERW, right? That's your name?
DERW, of course. Now, my Snapchat, DREWSKYBERG. Hit me up.
Much better, much better. And me on Twitter, Jordon Law, JORDONLAW_PXP. That wraps up our bonus episode. Plenty more bonuses to come for you guys. We love our fans and we hope you love the content you've been getting as well. We're working on a YouTube channel as well. So we're working things out. This podcast has got a big future ahead of it. Thank you for listening to this bonus episode of Jordan and Drew, the Sports Crew, the perfect podcast for you.